Hey everybody, welcome back to Rote Reviews. Today we are doing a classic film that is not so overt in its queerness. It's what we call queer-coded. We are doing Fried Green Tomatoes. And it was written by a novel called Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop by the wonderful Fannie Flagg. And if you don't know who she is, she used to be really big in the 70s and 80s. She several movies and stuff, but she also used to be on a game show quite often called Match Game. So if you really see her in action, you can go up on YouTube. There are old Match Game episodes up there, and you might find her. And she's a very funny woman. So I highly recommend the book, and I highly recommend you follow what she's done in her career. But she's an out lesbian, and she wrote a fantastic novel, and in 1991,
Yep.
they made an adaptation of her novel into a film, Fried Green Tomatoes. The summary, I think this is one of the most underrated summaries for a very good movie. A housewife who is unhappy with her life befriends an old lady in a nursing home and is enthralled by the tales she tells of the people she used to know.
That doesn't even.
That is it in a nutshell. But that has got to be the most unhookish summaries to get you to watch this film, because it's a fabulous fucking film.
Yep.
The thing that drives me crazy sometimes, and I don't know if it's because it's a movie that centers on women, because there is a lot. Well, no, there is a lot of pushback. That's why Gina Davis and Sigourney Weaver and them did that movie, that documentary about how women filmmakers have had to really work hard to get things out there. And I just wonder if, in some ways, subliminally, I don't think IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, put that out. Maybe they got it directly from the marketing. But I just think it's interesting. We have a movie that is female-centric, that tells a story of a lesbian relationship, and it's across, several decades, because you have both the modern tale and then the flashbacks. But I just think it's interesting that, and a lot of queer people of our age know of this movie, but I don't know that any of the children, as Billy Porter says, know about it. And they don't know what a marvelous queer tale it is.
True.
It's certainly, I remember seeing it in the theaters, and I just was so drawn into this cast of characters. I really liked that world. And I'm not big on the whole Southern oppression South bullshit. But this movie, I really I wanted to go to the Whistle Stop Cafe. I wanted to be there in that restaurant.
Yeah, but I didn't want the barbecue.
No. Well, that one barbecue.
Right.
Which we'll get to in a minute. But it has a wonderful cast. Cathy Bates, Jessica Tandy, who I just adore, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Mary Louise Parker, who incidentally
And
shares
Stan
the
Shaw.
exact same... Huh?
And Stan Shaw.
Well, yeah, but I have a pit stop on Mary Louise Parker. She and I share the exact same birthday, the exact same year, the exact same date.
Wow.
I think we're only a few hours apart, actually. So I always call her my sister from another mother because we both share the same birthday.
All right.
But anyways, so I have a special love for this film just because she's in it, and I think it's kind of cool that I get to see my birthday sister on screen. But I just think it's a marvelous film. I think one of the things I love about it is the queer relationship is nobody really talks about it. Nobody really questions it. And it's at a time when really the language was sort of there. It was starting to become a thing in mainstream, but people just accepted who you were, for all intents and purposes,
I think it's also a time period where everybody had to grow their own food and mend their own clothes and repair their own houses. And you didn't have a lot of time to worry about what other people were doing.
Right. Unlike now.
Right?
And I think that's actually a good point. I don't know if Fannie had said it in today's time, if she would have had the same novel.
She wouldn't have. She could not have.
Yeah. I think it's emblematic of that period, pre-web, pre, smartphones, because
Mostly even
the,
pre-television. You had to be
yeah,
in that era. You had to be wealthy to own a television.
yeah. So the reason why we talk about the modern tale and the flashbacks, what it is that Kathy Bates is a housewife who's basically kind of lost her juice in life. She's just existing. She doesn't really have a lot to look forward to. Her husband from work and goes immediately from the door to the dinner table to pick up his dinner and then to go sit in front of the couch or on this recliner and watch baseball or some sports, and completely ignores her.
Right.
And you can tell this has been going for quite some time.
And in the book, her two children are out of the house, so she's got that.
Well, I think she says that in the movie too.
I thought she did too.
There's a small line she says with that.
But yeah, she's got that loss of purpose.
Yes. It's very much an empty nest kind of situation. But she happens to go with her husband to a nursing home where the husband's aunt is staying. You never get to see her. You only get to see the food fly across the wall because she really doesn't like Kathy Bates' character.
Evelyn.
Why, you don't know, because she's a delightful character. And Kathy Bates plays her beautifully in this entire film. Her growth, you see the growth, you're there with her, you're yelling Tawanda just as much as she is. And she gets some wonderful us older folks kind of moments where she gets to slap the young around and go,
You're jumping all over the place. So as the aunt is throwing food at Kathy Bates' character Evelyn, and Evelyn leaves the room, she meets Jessica Tandy's character Ninny. Mm-hmm. And she and Ninny strike up a conversation. Ninny is at the home visiting another friend. And so the way the movie develops is
I don't think she's visiting. I think she's there, but she was there initially to bring someone in, and then she ends up staying.
She ends up staying for her friend, yes, Mrs. Otis. Mm-hmm. And so what you get in the modern tale is every time they go to the nursing home to visit the aunt, and eventually the aunt dies and Kathy Bates goes back to visit Ninny, she gets a little bigger piece of Ninny's story, and she learns.
And it helps her grow.
And so in the modern tale, we watch Kathy Bates go from this woman who has lost purpose and drive to finding purpose. She starts selling makeup. She starts losing weight, and she starts to develop a core personality. And then she starts to work on her marriage. Meanwhile, she's getting little pieces of the past from Ninny about how the two women in Whistle Stop, Alabama developed a friendship that became a coded romance film. It's a little more blatant in the book. But they ended up opening the Whistle Stop Cafe together, where they served everyone, which got them in trouble in the South because they would serve the Black community. They would serve the homeless. And of course, in the Deep South in that era, you didn't mix. And the past story is equally engaging. So Idgie Threadgood is the member of Jessica Tandy's family, who is a wildcat, but you find out that she lost her brother to a train track accident. Her brother, played by a very young Chris O'Donnell. He's so cute. And that summer, Mary Louise Parker's character stays with them while she's working at the church, and the two women develop their friendship and or relationship that lasts through the rest of their lives.
Right. Now, I have a question.
You?
Since you've read the book, do they ever explicitly say in the book, when I first saw it, the very first time I saw the movie, I thought Jessica Tandy's Ninny was
Idgie?
Idgie, yeah, Idgie. Because of the bee honey at the end. That's what maybe make that connection.
Right. So that does not, the whole honey thing really is minor in the book. That at least it doesn't stand out. It's been decades since I've read it. That didn't stand out for me. That felt like it was developed for the movie so they could have that final scene. In the book, at one point, Ninny says that Idgie is the younger sister of the man she married. So she married into the Threadgood family and got to know Idgie through shenanigans that way. I don't know if that was a lie she told Evelyn.
Right. That's part of the coding. It's that, you have to kind of almost take it that Jessica Tandy's character of Ninny is a false narrator, that she has something she's keeping back. And of course, of a person of that era, even in her older life, I mean, I get to the point where, if I get old enough, I'm going to say, fuck it, I don't care what you think, But people of that era were very conscious of people's perceptions of them,
Right.
especially in the South.
Right.
So I can see Ninny being edgy, and never really divulging that information. For me, the honey in the jar at the end of the film is a wink that she's letting, Kathy
Evelyn.
Bates' character, Evelyn, yeah, letting Evelyn in on the secret. And I think that's kind of the beauty of this film. It's kind of the queer coded, know, kind of thing, And I think queer audiences really saw that in the film. One, the women were accepted and defended by the community. So you have all these characters of the South, which is fully entrenched in segregation, which is fully entrenched in of blacks in their area, yet they live communally with them. I mean, this is the thing, is that
in the book
is that duality.
In the book, the black community is actually the next town over.
Yeah, okay. But it's interesting because I've always found that dichotomy very interesting. I didn't want to be a part of it because it really angers me when I see people of color in any kind of situation like that. But I will have to say, I've always found that duality in Southern life very, very peculiar and very fascinating, because at the same time they disparage, they also embrace Black culture. It's very weird. It's a very weird scenario.
Right. The other thing,
but I really love how Fannie dealt with it. Sorry, I love how Fannie dealt with it and established this bubble of whistle stop that allowed you to have safe space to let this coded queer romance come at you.
Now, this is where we need to let people know that the romance has an endpoint about the middle of the movie, where Mary Louise Parker's character, Ruth, actually does marry a man and have a child with him, though you find out he's abusing her, and Iggy steps in to save Ruth and the child, and then the husband goes missing, and a mystery ensues, and you do figure out, or you are told at the end who actually killed the husband. And it's not who you think.
Yes, it's not who you think.
I love when a story surprises me like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it has, to be honest, it has some really marvelous character actors. In fact, it's a movie for character actors. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, Kathy Bates elevated over time her career, but this is very much a character actors movie. And you even have the wonderful Cicely Tyson in it playing Sipsy, and it's just the way that these lives interlock with each other. And then when you get to the end and Whistle Stop is no longer, because the train stopped running there in the town, you really feel a sense of loss. That something really magical disappeared.
Jessica Tandy's character says something to that effect, that it had been a magical time, and yeah, and I forget the exact line, but it was really well said.
Yes. And it's just it fades into the wind. They all just went, in their desperate ways out into the wind.
After Ruth died and the railroad stopped running, the cafe shut down and everybody just scattered to the winds. It was never more than just a little knockabout place. But now that I look back on it, when that cafe closed, the heart of the town just stopped beating. It's funny how a little place like this brought so many people together.
But it's just you feel sorry for that moment, that when it all drifted apart, because there was a magic and a mystique there that really worked.
Right.
And it kind of gives you the sense of community and the importance of community, and the importance of being neighborly, and to know enough about your fellow neighbors, not to be intrusive, but to be there to support them
Right.
in their time of need.
And to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Absolutely.
a beautiful moment where Iggy is brought to court for the death of the husband.
Yes.
And the community rallies around her and gives her an alibi. And it's different in the book and the film. So,
okay.
Yeah, in the book, I believe it's Ruth's pastor who steps in and gives the alibi, saying that Iggy and Sipsy had been at a
Well, that's
Bible
the way it
camp.
is in the movie.
Is it okay? They did do it the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember he brings I think it's a dictionary.
You're right.
instead
of the Bible. Yep. Because he didn't want to swear on the Bible and lie.
Right, exactly. That's why he swore on his own Bible.
Yeah.
But there's some wonderful and there's the drama of the husband who gets murdered. So there's all kinds of things thrown in. You've got a mystery to solve. You've got the romance that's going on. You've got family generation stories that are told. Because of Buddy, the boy who was born from the marriage between Frank and I can't
Ruth.
think of Ruth. Thank you. Ruth's son. So you get all these familial stories, so it really makes you feel, as a viewer, at least for me, part of that community. Right. So you do mourn the loss at the end when Nitty goes home and it's all gone.
Her house has been torn down.
Yeah. It's a wonderful, marvelous film. So that's our discussion about it. We highly recommend you guys go see it.
And after you see it, come tell us if we missed something that you found important.
We'd love to know, what you think about it. It's one of the films that I think has been forgotten a bit with time. But if you mention to people who have seen it, they immediately go, oh, yeah, that one. It is a classic. It is a literary classic, and it is a film classic. The adaptation under John Avnet, the director's guiding hand, is beautifully done. I don't think there's a scene in there that was extraneous. I think it was tightly managed.
Oh, yeah.
It was very deftly handled, and they knew exactly where the line in the sand was in that production. So, big kudos to the production team. They did a marvelous job.
And if you go find the book, whether to purchase or just from the library, there are recipes in
or
the back.
Or if you have a Kindle
Whistle.
and you're on Amazon Unlimited.
Well, yeah, okay. But there are recipes from the Whistle Stop Cafe in the back.
Oh, cool! Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Including
that's worth buying the novel just for that.
And my copy is currently at my parents' house because my mother wanted to make fried green tomatoes.
Excellent. Well, do we want to give our reviews?
Sure, but we should probably let people know that Written on the Edge is really proud to showcase media created by and for and about the queer community and our allies. So please, if you enjoy what we're bringing to you, please subscribe for alerts and new episodes and, all the bells and whistles.
Because we're doing this for you guys, to find new media that maybe you don't know is out there. That's for our community, often by people from our community, that we want to bring to you just so you have something else to watch. You're not sitting there like I am with 3,000 movies in your movie library going, God, there's nothing to watch. We want to at least give you some options. So.
And now you can say, Vance and Baz told us to watch this, so if it's bad, it's their fault.
Exactly. All right, on to the ratings.
Yes.
Vance, why don't you give it a go?
All right, Fried Green Tomatoes, overall production, gave it a 4.5. Script, screenplay, 5. Both the book and the script were perfect. Exactly what they needed to be, down to the language, down to the punctuation. Sound, lighting, score, gave it a 4. It didn't get in the way of anything. It was not designed to showcase these elements, so it was perfect for what it needed to be. Art, direction, costuming, 4.5. They were on point in the 2 time periods that they played in. Cathy Bates' character's wardrobe, watch it carefully because as she develops her sense of self, her wardrobe grows up with her. It's kind of cool. Casting, 5. Everybody was perfectly cast, and this was a dream cast to just watch. Directing, also 5. Like Baz mentioned, the director found all the points. He ran up to the line. He towed it, but he kind of pushed it. Just 5 easily. Queer themes presented, 4. It was coded. and it was coded so it could be presented to a larger audience under Hollywood's terror of all things LGBTQ. But personal overall rating, 4.5.
Yes. Excellent. Mine are pretty much fives across the board. The only one that I would say, and well, it's just one of the movies that I watch time and again. I love. I have to get my Tawanda refresh. You know,
Right.
so I'm all for Kathy Bates, and if I'm telling the children, you need to watch this because it gives you hope for growing older and where you can go with it. And might I say that Kathy Bates' character Evelyn is pretty goddamn clever with saran wrap. I'm just going to leave it at that. So that's our reviews and ratings for this movie. We really, really want you to go see it. If you watch it, and come back to this and comment down below and let us know what you thought of it, because we think it's a marvelous film.
Yes.
It is also a way for you to experience queer-coded films because it's never overt. And we should also mention that you never really see the sexual angle of Ruth and Iggy's relationship. There's a kiss, then that's about it. That's
Right.
about all you get. So it was in that vein of, we will allow them to be queer, but we mustn't ever sexualize their situation. And it was definitely of that era, especially in the 80s and 90s when queer films started to become more mainstream, that they held back. So unlike Morris, which I'll put the link up above, unlike Morris, which actually went there, that's about the only real element. But you do get the sense that these two women really loved and cared about each other. That part is not lost. It's pretty out in the open. So we want you to see it. Go see it and come back and tell us what you guys thought of it. We would really love to hear it.
Next?
Next week, we're going to do something along the same lines of queer coding, except we're going to do it for the boys. We're going to look at Rope, which is an Alfred Hitchcock film, and I'm a huge Hitchcockian buff. I have a lot of books about him. I know a lot of stories about Hitch. And unfortunately, his daughter just recently passed away. Lived to be 92. But Patricia Hitchcock was a marvelous keeper of their stories. And so we're going to talk about Rope, which is based on the Leopold and Loeb killing, but the Leopold and Loeb killings were of a child. This is an adult that gets murdered. And then you get to see the psychological evolution of it. And it's also a film that is filmed in one set with continuous reels. So there is no break. If an actor flubbed a line, they had to go back and do it again. So it's really an interesting, and that was the challenge for Hitch. He wanted to do a film like if you were watching a stage play, and it was just continuous. You just kept going. And so, it's a really fascinating story.
And so, well, Baz is Captain Knowledge about this film. This will be my first viewing, so I'm coming at it with fresh eyes.
And I will also include, there is actually a behind the scenes video, and I'll find it on YouTube, and I'll include it in our episode next week. It was part of the press kit for the film when it came out. And this is like the late 40s. So it's to have queer coded film in the late 40s with the likes of Jimmy Stewart and Farley Granger, and it's got some wonderful actors, and John Dahl. It's a queer coded film that has so many sub stories underneath it. But the little clip I'm going to include, and I'm going to make sure Vance watches it before he watches the film, actually gives you a story before the story. So they do a whole sequence of the man who's murdered, and you get his backstory before you get to see the film. And I really wish that, at least on the DVD that I have of it, I wish they had included it as part of it. So whoever put it up online, found it and put it up online, kudos to you, because it's a brilliant little, and it's not very long. It's just a park scene in Central Park where it takes place. But it does give you more information about what happens after the murder takes place, and you have more going on in your head about the film. So I really wish it had been something more readily available, but at least I'm going to include it so people can see that as well as we can comment about the film. So
Tune in next week.
Yeah, tune in next week. And we'll also add a little bit of the queer coding about all of Hitchcock's films, because he did have a perspective on it. It was part of his British humor to poke that queer button, because he didn't like being told he could do it. So he figured out ways around it.
Nice.
So, there we go. So join us next week. Remember to like, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Let us know how we're doing. If there's something you really want us to see, tell us. Let us know. We'll work it in. We're very open to that. And until next week, I am S.A. Baz Collins.
And I'm Vance Bastion.
And we'll see you all at the movies. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.